In my opinion, the soft plastic tube is one of the most versatile, one of the best, and probably one of the most underrated soft plastic lures that we have. Everybody out there knows what a tube is, but I feel like it is still one of the most just underused baits when it comes to soft plastics out there on the market. And to me, a tube is one of those baits that will catch some really quality fish, and it just gets a lot of bites. So in this video, I want to talk about a few places where, I get out there to the water and a tube is just calling my name. Where are the situations where I really like to pick up a tube? Now, before we get into all that, this video is brought to you by my fishing apparel business, Fin Fishing. Right now, over at Fin Fishing, everything is 20% off. Everything on the website. Also, from right now until the very end of the year, 2025, I'm running a big contest over at Fin Fishing. Basically, for every dollar that is spent, you get an entry into this contest, and I'm giving away 10 different prizes. Still trying to figure out all the prizes that I'm giving away, but I know for a fact I'm going to be giving away a $150 Gravity 5 reel. I'm giving away a $50 glide bait. I'm giving away what I think is the grand prize, which is a over $2,000 Humminbird Solix 12 unit, which look, if you don't have a boat, you can sell the thing or you can just hold on to it. Whatever you want to do with it, it can be yours. Also, I'm giving away a trip with myself. I'm actually going to meet you on your home lake, do a lake break video with you over on BassFishingHQ. I think it can be a really fun thing. So anyways, right now, all you got to do, check out those things on Fin Fishing. It is a great time to buy because, again, everything is discounted. And I will leave some links down below in the description. All right, let's talk a little bit about a tube. And real quick, before I talk about a tube, I got to let you guys know that I'm actually working on my own tube bait, as a matter of fact. This is something that's been in the works for a little while. And I probably won't be able to share it with you guys until probably the spring. But I am really excited about that when that happens. But I absolutely love a tube. I fell in love with a tube at a very young age because my uncle who lives down in Florida always talked about fishing a tube. And one of the biggest things that he told me is that there's a lot of people out there, especially down in Florida. Like if you're from Florida, you know this, but when you live in Florida, like the number one technique in Florida primarily is flipping and pitching. Like you have lily pads down there, you have Kissimmee grass, you have all different types of matted vegetation. You have, as Gerald Swindle put it, you have grass that grows from the hotel room all the way to the middle of the lake down in Florida. And so really fishing a soft plastic bait down in Florida is one of the best ways to catch a bass. Now, with that being said, as many of you guys know who live down there, the number one bait that people flip and pitch down there is like a Cinco style bait. That 5 to 7 inch, straight-tailed worm bait. That is what people fish. And I remember a long time ago, my uncle telling me how he used to be able to go behind a lot of guys who were flipping and pitching that Cinco style bait with a tube, and he felt like it truly helped him to catch bigger fish than those people had caught. And I remember him talking about that, and that was when I was really young. I started flipping and pitching a tube all over the place. It became my confidence lure. Like here in Ohio, it became the lure that when I just needed to get a bite out there, I would pick up a tube on a flipping stick and pitch it against the bank. Like that was my thing. And so anyways, over the years, I have grown to use a tube in a number of different ways. And so I want to talk about a few of those ways right now. Now, the first thing that we obviously already kind of talked about is simply flipping and pitching. I will say that when it comes to flipping and pitching a tube too, the one thing that I love about it is I think it's one of the best cold water baits out there on the market. Like right now we're going into the fall, or whether you're going into the fall or you're coming out in the spring, like in cold water, flipping and pitching when fish get up shallow is a really good deal. Typically, a lot of times those like beaver style baits can work really well because they just don't have a lot of kick and motion to them. It's very similar to a tube. And so a tube is something that I'm going to use a lot, especially when it comes to flipping and pitching in cold water. Another thing that I really like about a tube that kind of separates it from other soft plastics out there on the market is, and I know that not everybody likes to do this, but when fish are on beds, if you want to catch them on the beds, one of the best things you can do is actually put an 1/8 ounce weight on a Texas rig with your tube. And if you actually kind of like pop your tube on a slack line, that thing will jump straight up and circle back down and literally almost stay in place. It's one of the very few lures that you can almost work and keep it in place, which is really nice for when fishing a bed that might only be 2-3 foot across. And so it's one of my favorite lures to use when it comes to bed fishing. The other way that I really like to rig up a tube is on a tube jig. Like, I live in smallmouth country. If you are a smallmouth fisherman, you know this, but a tube jig is one of the best lures to use for smallmouth. The other thing though is that a tube jig is a very good, effective technique that can be used and utilized anywhere across the country. I know that a lot of anglers who fish for smallmouth know about it, but I'll never forget this Kevin Van Dam video that I watched a number of years ago where he was fishing a tube jig, but like down in the South, and he was just fishing it on offshore structure, just like you would in smallmouth country, but he was fishing it for largemouth. Like, it is a very effective bait. And again, down in the South, when you're fishing structure and guys are fishing deep diving crankbaits and big worms and football jigs and baits like that, a tube jig is just something that they're not used to seeing. And it has a very unique action. Like, when you're using it with a tube jig, you pop that thing off the bottom, you snap it off the bottom, and again, it kind of has this circle as it goes back to the bottom. It's very different, and as I always talk about, being different is really, really key in bass fishing. Now, another way that kind of became popular of utilizing a tube is actually as a chatterbait trailer. We talk at times about different trailers to use for chatterbait, but you've seen guys a lot actually take the skirt off of a chatterbait and actually put a tube on the back of that bladed jig. Now look, I'm not going to say that that's not a good way to catch them, because it absolutely catches fish. But I don't always love it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't always love it because after you catch a fish or two, you typically have to replace the tube because of it simply just getting tore up very easily. So that is not ideal when fishing. It absolutely gets bit. I don't necessarily know that if it gets bit better than just your standard chatterbait though. So I did want to put that out there. Is I don't necessarily know if it gets bit a lot better. What it does do is it makes the profile of your chatterbait a lot more slender and a lot more streamlined. And so therefore it helps to get your chatterbait deeper. So when you're wanting to get in a little bit deeper water with a chatterbait, taking the skirt off and really actually threading any type of soft plastic on there will help you to get that bait deeper, which sometimes is very nice. Like, for example, I have fished like tops of hydrilla that is 10 and 12 foot deep. And when you're fishing the tops of them that deep with a skirt, there's a lot more lift there. It's going to cause that bait to go up. So using what I call a naked chatterbait, where you take the skirt off, you feed a soft plastic on there, which you can utilize a tube for, is a really good way of catching fish. It's not one of my favorite things. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is a stupid tube. If you've been fishing for a long, long time, you've probably seen what a stupid tube looks like. Basically, the way that you rig up a stupid tube, I should have brought a jig head, but you could look it up online. Maybe I'll do a full video on it. Maybe I'll just do that. But you can use a jig head, kind of like a tube jig head that you would use, but you really want kind of like the EWG style ones, and you're actually going to rig it up on this bait. And you can use a stupid tube with 10-pound test. You can use it with 20-pound test. Like, I have flipped and pitched a stupid tube before. The biggest thing that I will say about fishing a stupid tube setup, it is absolutely effective. I highly suggest using braid to fluorocarbon, no matter what. If you are fishing it on a spinning rod, absolutely. Even if you're using it on a bait cast rod, I would still use braid to fluorocarbon, because the thing about a stupid tube is that the sucker twists, right? And it's kind of a part of the whole thing. Like, it's what makes it a good thing. And if you use straight fluorocarbon and you're fishing it all day, you are going to have some super kinked line. And what you can do is use that braid to fluorocarbon, and it's really going to help with that situation. Again, whether it's on a bait caster or whether it is on a spinning rods. So guys, the tube, I don't know. To me, it is just one of those baits that I always have with me. And it's one of those things that I have a tremendous amount of confidence in. And I can't wait to show you the tube that I'm more or less designing here in probably about 6 months or so. It'll be a little while, but anyways, it's going to be pretty cool. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like it. Also, do not forget to check out that fin fishing gear while it is on sale and in stock. And I will see you guys in the next film, next one.